Hey all, Zemo here. A little bit of context for this video. This was the final project that I submitted for my Classics 30 lecture. I would highly recommend that class. A very easy, very interesting general education. I really enjoyed it, so yeah, enjoy. Okay, this is my final project in the form of a mini lecture. My name is I chose to cover the power of Signia in Homer's Odyssey. First, some background about Homer and the book itself. It's actually unknown if Homer was a real person or not, but from what we have recovered in writing, Homer was an Oioidos, which is essentially just a bard from the island Chios, which is off the coast of modern-day Ionia. However, there is a speculation that Homer was not a real person and instead a pen name like Mark Twain. Anyway, Homer is credited as the author for both the Iliad and the Odyssey, as you might know. Both of these stories are highly stylized epic idioms that were written at a time when oral traditions were starting to be written down. While the Iliad describes the Trojan War, the Odyssey focuses on Odysseus as he undergoes his nostos, which essentially means journey, to Ithaca from the destroyed city of Troy. Like I previously mentioned, the focus of this mini lecture is Xenia. So, what is it? Xenia is a Greek term that refers to the concept of guest and host interactions. This meaning can go both ways in a sense that one could practice good Xenia, like the Phaeacians, and another person could practice bad Xenia, like the suitors, both of whom I will touch upon later. The concept of Xenia is riddled in the Odyssey. This is most apparent in Book 6 when Odysseus arrives on the island Phaeacia. More on that later. Most of the time in the Odyssey, good Xenia is realized as accepting a stranger into your home, giving them food and drink, maybe a bed for rest, and really just making accommodations for them. In return, the stranger is expected to talk about themselves whenever they are ready, but in a time frame that is more sooner rather than later. They are expected to share their name, where they're from, and their story about how they got to the host's house, and what type of goal or mission that they are on. It's important to note that in the Greek version of the Odyssey, Zeus can be referred to as Zeus Senios, which means Zeus who oversees Xenia. This goes into a functionalist reading of the Odyssey, which I'll also touch upon later. As I previously mentioned, the Phaeacians are a prime example of how to practice good Xenia. Nausicaa, the daughter of royalty, is the first of the Phaeacians to encounter Odysseus in Book 6. She respects him while he pleads for help and helps direct him into town where he could talk to the king and queen. In Books 7, 8, and 13, King Alcinous and Queen Arides practice good Xenia by welcoming Odysseus, giving him a bed to rest and a banquet. After some hesitation, Odysseus finally reveals who he is and shares his story, completing his side of Xenia. As a bonus, King Alcinous provides a ship, a crew, and a variety of gifts as he sends Odysseus off back to his home of Ithaca, helping him complete his nostos. On the contrary, the suitors of Odysseus' wife Penelope abuse the concept of Xenia. In Book 1, we hear of the suitors that constantly overrun Odysseus' estate, demanding food, drink, and entertainment, while verbally abusing Odysseus' son Telemachus while trying to court Penelope, thinking that Odysseus is dead. However, Telemachus, Penelope, and some loyal house slaves of Odysseus hold out against giving in completely and continue to practice good Xenia. While it is forced upon them, they are still good hosts to the suitors. For the reward of this behavior, the suitors get brutally murdered by Odysseus, and finally, the family gets to live peacefully once again. Moving on, we are able to apply a functionalist point of view to this epic. Functionalism is the idea that myths reinforce the status quo of what was normal in the myth teller's culture in that specific period of time. Looking at the Odyssey from this view, it's apparent that ancient Greeks highly valued this interaction between guest and host. This is exemplified as they applied the term Xenia to their most powerful god, that being Zeus, as referenced by the phrase Zeus Senios. In myth, including the Odyssey, the gods constantly interact with the mortals in disguise, meaning that mortals in myths could be interacting with a god that they praise without even knowing that they'd done so. This could reflect their value of respect in the ancient world, as they could have believed that respect and cooperation with each other helped spread their influence over the ancient world while the Greek world grew and grew. Finally, a takeaway I hope anyone gets out of this is that you should respect everyone you interact with. While yes, it is understandable that you would not let a stranger in your house eat your food or sleep in your bed, putting Signia into today's terms is to be respectful and hospitable. If your friend invites you over to their house, don't trash the house like the suitors did. Be respectful to the strangers that you interact with as well. You never know what someone is going through, and a little respect can go a long way. You never know what that person might know. You never know if that person might show up again in your life. Thank you for watching.